welcome back to the A&S Way. We are going to do a bit of a catch-up this week because we haven't done one for a while. Can't remember the last time we done one, but we've been covering stuff in other videos anyway. But we thought we would cover a few things that have been going on recently, and the main one for me will be that I went to the DMV this week. So some of you have been watching our stories with attempting to get our driving licenses. I think that's not going to happen for anytime soon. Happen.
So mine's now been referred to their whatever the hearing thing is, but basically they've told me that my license is cancelled. It's been correctly cancelled. There's nothing they can do about it. Good luck.
Yeah, and yesterday I went online to look. I looked up driving licenses and EAD. The EAD is the work permit that Ant's applying for, and it seems that they're linked here, which is really interesting. And it's a different rule state by state, so we'll just wait.
But anyway, I haven't got my license.
He's not getting it anytime soon. But me, in my case, I went for my knowledge test originally back when you did. I failed my first one. I went back again in July, I think, passed the second time round, and then this week I went for my skills test and I passed.
I did tell, because I said it would be super easy, it's probably 15 minutes, and you're like, no, and then it was.
Well, it wasn't 15 minutes in total. I was there for a good 2 hours, and I assumed, so I had an appointment for 2 p.m. You have to go with your identity documents and also proof of where you live as well. The documentation they gave me did not explain that, but I've just learned whenever you go to the DMV, take everything with you. Don't leave anything to chance. On top of that, you need to make sure you've got your vehicle registration, car insurance documents, and proof that you've, the smog test, I think, as well, was the other thing that you needed. And you have to have that all with you when you go to check in. I assumed someone was going to check me in and then I'd be off on my way to do my driving test. That's not the case. I queued for about 20 minutes to be checked in. They then check all your documents and then make you sit down with a group of other people, which I assume is where you were sat waiting to get your...
Yeah, I was sat next to the group because they have them in a different pen.
Yeah, it's about 20-ish, 25 minutes, I would say. It's so easy. I can't explain how easy it is. If you have passed your driving test in the UK, the US version, certainly the Nevada version here in Vegas, is super easy. The only thing, you literally just drive. They make you turn a couple of times, do a couple of lane changes, and that's about it. There was no skill. And when you get back to the DMV, the only parking they make you do, so the parallel parking is not in there because no one parallel parks here anyway, but when you get back to the DMV, they'll tell you to park up, and they don't care whether you go front in or reverse in. They just tell you that you can't cross the white line, which I think is also a bit random because what relevance does that have? But anyway, that's it. It was easy. I passed. I then had to go back. Then you wait for quite a while, so I probably waited a good hour after that to do my pictures and vision test. Now this is where they messed up. They were supposed to do my vision test before I went on my driving test. They realised they made a mistake, and that was also very dangerous. But they did it afterwards. I paid my $40, and hopefully I should have my full driver's license for the state of Nevada in 2 weeks. And then in other news, so the biggest news really, or the major thing that we're trying to sort out at the moment, is our home for next year. And that's been quite a thing.
Yeah, I don't know where to begin. So we had decided a month or 2 months ago now to go buy another property to rent out. I went back to the UK, hated it all. There were a couple of issues. You always get issues when trying to buy a home. So the first thing was trying to match up when we put a deposit down to when to apply for the mortgage and all of that. And the mortgage, you'll see I've got a video on this, phoned me up on the same day I paid the $1,000 deposit and went, oh, there's a problem with the mortgage, you've got an issue with your credit. And no. It was quite a painful back and forth, because in the end it took us coming back home, and then 2 weeks we changed the mortgage broker, and the next one was actually a lot better. And what it turned out to be was, because we sent them, I think, maybe 5 or 6 credit reports, and they're like, no, there must be something on there. He couldn't see it, we couldn't see it, every credit report under the sun, and they won't tell you what the issue is. What it turned out to be is, I had, when we moved from our home, our house, to temporary accommodation at Airbnb, I had one credit card sent to this Airbnb because I'd lost my card or it wasn't working. So I had to change the address temporarily until we had moved. And because that came up on the, they basically said, you've got an issue with your credit. So I sent them the thing, I sent them the place that we stayed in, told them it's not our home. We've never, because they're like, we want to see a rental or a mortgage. It's not our home, it's a hotel. And then they're like, oh, okay, that's fine then. And then just went, you've got the mortgage. But by that point, it was weeks and weeks later. That then followed up with another issue, which is always the case, of the legal people are utterly useless in the UK. So if I have one complaint about one of our systems, it's the legal conveyances system when buying and selling homes. They
they did not get
so
back to
useless.
us at all.
So we sent all of our legals over, so our formal identification, everything, paperwork. The email contained maybe like 20 or 30 different documents. They just didn't get back to us. So I messaged them, and I think somebody got back to me, and then they didn't get back to me for 3 weeks. So bearing in mind that this now must have been well over a month at this point. Yeah. I'm just like, do you know what, forget it. We want to buy our own home anyway, let's forget it. I know I love to make money, but Selena would prefer to be in our own home. We lost £1,000 because you lose the deposit you put down. We also lost all of the money that I spent going home, but I try and look at it. I got to see family and friends, but that's a very expensive trip. But I'm trying to see the positive in it. And then we've decided basically that we'll buy a home. Mostly because I think Selena would prefer that, and it gives us some grounding and somewhere that we might stay for longer than a few months.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned it in the last catch-up as well, when I said, for me, just being here made me realise that it would just be nice to have a place that I can make my own. And we know for this home, definitely, we're not going to be able to rent this for a number of years anyway, because the homeowner is very likely coming back next year. So for me, I just kind of want to
we don't want to keep moving.
Yeah,
and every time you move, you commit to another year, and you kind of, it throws everything out. So once I'd come to terms with that and the losses and the hassle that I went through, and basically didn't achieve anything other than the fact that I didn't achieve anything, I guess that's an achievement, we started looking for a home here. Now this is equally difficult, but for different reasons. So I've spent weeks working this out. One of the things that we weren't aware of is, in Las Vegas, maybe Nevada, but at least Las Vegas, the home builders are effectively doing something very illegal, but they've found a loophole. So you are not allowed to force home buyers to use your in-house lender. They should have the right, or they have the legal right, to use their own lender. However, what they do is they say, you must pre-qualify with our own in-house lender.
And you can go off.
And then you can go. So they've navigated the law, because that's perfectly it's a perfectly reasonable request to ask of you, because what they're saying is, we just want to make sure you can afford the home. Now, it's still illegal, because effectively saying, if our lender says no, you can't go anywhere, so you might be able to qualify somewhere else. But for us, in our situation, their lenders are very basic. They just want super easy, people that have lived here or US citizens. We're obviously not. We've been here 6 months now. We don't have US credit, we have to use UK credit, and only few brokers and lenders even understand what that means. So we run into this problem where we can't necessarily qualify with their in-house lenders because we have no US credit. So we were stuck in this loop for a period of time. I spent a long time working with lenders, making sure that we could present a really strong case to say, you're saying we can't pre-qualify with yours. Here are some pre-qualifications. Tell us what the options are, because effectively they can't put in writing that unless you use our lender, we will not give you the home. So we're just trying to put them in a position where they either have to say that or say, you know what, use your own lenders. But they're very sneaky. They just won't get back to your emails. They won't return your calls. So we found that a little bit challenging.
Yeah, and you secured a few mortgages.
Yes, we've got free mortgage options to use.
and we have a realtor, and this is something, and I'm not sure if we've mentioned this in our other videos, but here you always have to use a realtor for the buying process. In the UK you don't, and somebody said to me, oh, is that a bit like an estate agent?
No, the estate agent in the UK works on behalf of the seller, and only if it's a second-hand home, and all they do is they package up your house, put it up for sale onto the sales sites, and then when you call them, they manage the buyers and the interest. Whereas here, your realtor represents the buyer. You'll also have a realtor on the other side, but when it's a new build, you still need a realtor to represent you as the buyer. There's all kinds of loopholes and technicalities and things that they do cover, so you do actually need one here. But the key thing we learned
is that typically when there's a home sale, that's how they get paid. They get paid commission once the sale is finalised, and it's a percentage of the home, the property value.
Yeah.
But then in the UK, but the difference here is obviously old house, that's quite clear what happens there. But then on a new build, this is where the developers are responsible for paying the commission to the realtor.
Yeah.
And this is where we entered our next issue. So we've been going around a few homes. So we've been looking at old, but we're also considering new, mainly because of where we want to be, and it just suits us. We like new builds anyway. But one of the home builders that we really like,
the style and the location.
and we'll share some videos because I think I took some on the GoPro, was really hard to contact. There was nobody there when we went to view the property, and that should have sent alarm bells ringing anyway. Our realtor struggled to get in contact with anybody, at least for, I felt like it was 2 weeks. I
don't think it was, but it was
probably a week. But it felt like forever. And then when she finally got back to us, I think she felt really awkward having to speak to Anne about what the situation is. And essentially they've said that they're not going to pay that commission. And it means that us as the buyers have to pay the realtor's commission.
Yeah, and it's because you don't have to be, it's not a legal requirement to be represented, but bearing in mind, we know there's some not issues, but things that we will not be aware of. It's best to be represented if you haven't done this a number of times. So we would have had to pay 2.5% to the realtor. Now, this is just not heard of really. It's always from the buyer. So it's similar in the UK. The seller. The seller pays their real estate agent. It's the same here. But this would have been a case where we would have had to pay out of pocket 2.5% to have representation. It isn't really the cash. Obviously, the cash isn't great. But if you love the house, that sort of couple of years later, it's not a problem. It's just the shadiness of all of it, and what that really says about that home builder. Actually prior to this, I'd done some research, and there's a lot of complaints. Now, you always get complaints about builders, always, because people want it to be perfect, and that's just not the real world. But this one in particular has been getting some really bad complaints where they're swapping out work surfaces that people have paid upgrades for the basic ones, and not telling them until they arrive on the day to complete on their homes. And this is happening quite frequently in this particular area, so we just opted not to go for them.
Yeah, I think all the signs, even though, and it was actually our favourite home. It
still is.
It still is. It's so annoying because it's in the location that I would say our favourite location.
Yeah, it's our favourite location.
It's at a very high elevation, so you get these really nice views. Depending on how you're looking, you can see out to the strip, but behind you is Red Rock Mountain, so it's really pretty. The development itself is a very nice development. The houses are really nice. They're really nicely spaced out, and the home was just as close as possible for us to our kind of like ideal dream type home. So that's how annoying this is for us, because it was just within a budget that we think that we could make it affordable, plus it's our perfect location. But it was too dodgy what was going on. So it's risky. There was no point. Just like all the things in your head just go, this is probably going to go wrong. You'd
hate yourself when it does go wrong. You're like, I knew this was coming up. Why did I go down this road? One of the other things that's really important to note, so for people that have been following us, I started looking at homes here was it last year or the beginning of this year?
It would have been the beginning of this year, because this time last year we didn't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So the beginning of this year, home prices for the homes that we're looking at have gone up nearly 200,000 from January, February of this year to, well, it's September, August we started looking. $200,000 in the space of 8 months. So it's priced out a lot of the ones that we would have previously been able to afford.
Yeah.
There's just so many people moving here. There's very low stock. So especially for new builds, you're battling and bidding against other people, and in particular people with cash to buy. I think it's close to 30% of people buying here are buying with cash.
Yeah, and buying multiple
homes.
And there's no indication that those prices are dropping either.
No.
The second-hand homes,
they're dropping a little bit off stabilising.
Yeah, but then the new build homes are definitely not dropping yet. And everyone kept saying, "Oh no,
just wait."
And I
kept saying to them, no, and I mean, literally 200,000. So we have the original price quotes that I got from Toll Brothers and TriPoint and that back in the beginning of this year, versus the same houses on the same bits, maybe obviously different plots of land, but they're 200,000 more. So you just have to suck it up.
Yeah, so and Ant's one of those people that constantly oh, if only we just done this then, or it was this much.
I hate losing money, especially if you're aware you've lost money. And this isn't one of those where people go, oh, I bought, well, your cousin, oh, I'm comparing this house now to something you could have bought in 1970s or 80s, as example.
That's ridiculous.
But
we're talking we
live in a different time. We're talking in a time frame of we could have bought it in January or February or whenever it was, because it's what their build times, 8-9 months. Versus now we're having to pay 200,000, so it does hurt me a lot.
Yeah, and when we did go out with the realtor, so we spent a good few days. I think it was 2 days. We went out and looked at various home builders, only in West Summerlin, just to be clear as well. So that is the other requirement. I absolutely love this area, and I've been to others. They just don't compare to how nice it is in West Summerlin for me. And we were talking about this yesterday. We'll probably do a video just to show you what Summerlin is really like and why.
I definitely see it. It's not a place where I'm going, I don't really see it, but fine. I definitely understand why you'd want to live here, and I definitely understand why people pay hundreds of thousands more than something that's literally 10 minutes, as in, no, I was just 10 minutes away. You can get in your car here, drive 10 minutes away, stop anywhere there, and it'll be 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 less than what home prices are here.
But because of that, much like with the rental search, it means that our search for a home is obviously limited in that sense, and we are kind of managing also when the houses are going to come up with when this rental will be over for next year. So we did find another home builder, nowhere near as expensive starting point as Lennar. That was where we were.
So the plots, the land you get is much smaller, your yard space is much smaller, one less garage space.
It's less impressive
less impressive.
But we did like it. We liked that house.
Really, really like the house. And if you're where we come from in terms of the homes that we have, this is still
amazing
huge.
Home, yeah.
It has everything we could possibly need, but not all of the things that we want. So I always have this little niggling doubt of, are we going to get a year in and have to move anyway?
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not. However, what we will do is we'll, if that does happen, we'll just end up renting that out and buying another one. It will suit our needs definitely for a year or two if we need it to. On top of the fact that it actually is far less to buy and own, even with that additional price, than it is to rent. The rentals here are just crazy, and they're going up by the day, it seems. So in terms of financially, it makes a lot more sense, even if we don't absolutely love it, to buy that, live in it for a year, rent it.
Yeah, and the other thing is our realtor, we've been in contact with them in terms of this pre-approval that you have to do. And although it took some work and explaining,
we think it's going to go through this week. Either way, I think they are a little bit more receptive to using another one. I think because we've explained, I put in an email that we will not have US credit, but we do have this. This isn't just we've got our friend, because that's one of the things they're concerned about. You just get somebody you know to give you a pre-approval, because anyone can do it. We actually had to spend, I think it was close to 3 weeks getting this pre-approval, because we have to prove all of the stuff that we have back home. We have to give them all of our documents. So they essentially do all of the underwriting up front to make sure they can underwrite it. So I think that's helped a lot with them understanding our position, and maybe considering if we don't do a pre-approval through theirs, that we can use our own pre-approvals.
So that's looking promising. If we do if we're going to go back, because the day we went, we looked at a number of places. So I always say to Andy, just going back will give us a perspective whether we actually really do like the home. We'll look at the plots that are available. I think they're not releasing them for another couple of weeks anyway, so we'll see. But it'll be good timing, I believe, with when this rental is over. But at the same time, we're still looking.
And if we do buy here, we save like 200,000. So even though we paid this one, I think it's gone up since December. It's only gone up 110,000.
Do you like that? There you go.
So it's better. But overall, the overall price, which will break down how they do it here, because it's very different to at home. How you build the price of a home out will be about 200,000 less than we were prepared to pay for the one up the top.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's in West Summerlin, but it's not the same location. No. And also the views aren't the same there, so it's not necessarily comparable, but still a nice spot and still a nice home from what I remember. I think that's it on the house. We'll keep you updated as things progress or not. You never know how things go. We're generally always progressing in some form, but sometimes you can,
even if we're failing along the way,
or going backwards. So we're trying to move forward.
What we don't do is sulk and sit in our own sorrows. Things often don't work out, and then we just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
As you'll find out with the next bit.
So this week coming, so I'm not sure by the time this video is released, but it's our 10-year anniversary.
And we were due to go
to New Orleans.
Which Celine's been wanting to go for years. We never seem to end up getting there.
And if any of you have been watching the news, you will know that there was Hurricane Ida, I think about 2 weeks ago now, and that has obviously devastated the whole of New Orleans and many other places across the US. So this is the thing, and just if you're considering moving to the USA, do really consider the likelihood of natural disasters where you live, because this is something we're not very used to in the UK.
No, not at all.
And it's something that happens very often here.
In many
you pretty
places.
much know it's going to happen.
Yeah, so you a lot of the South, a lot of the East Coast, and most of the West Coast frequently get hit with, I mean, horrendous, from fire to wind to rain to flooding. It is bad frequently, multiple times a year here, so it's definitely something you have to consider if you're not from a country like that.
Yeah, and obviously that affected our trip to New Orleans, which
we've had to cancel, which is
a shame. And I'm very gutted because we had a really nice hotel booked, and I was just really looking forward to it. It's somewhere I've always wanted to go, so that's on hold now. Hopefully I'll still get to do it next year, or it'll just be one of those places I never get to go. I don't know. Just like, it will happen maybe one day. But we still wanted to do something for our wedding anniversary. It's been a bit hard because Ant's willing to go anywhere, I would say.
I'm willing to go
But the thing
anywhere.
is, it's not that cheap necessarily.
That's an understatement. It's very expensive. It's not that cheap. It's crazy expensive.
Most places we want to go.
Yeah, I would say not that cheap is £180 for a night somewhere is not that cheap. £150 is not that cheap. Cheap is £80 to £100 for me. A lot of the places that we're looking at, and it doesn't, you just pick anywhere in the US, and they seem to start, as we mentioned before, at $300 a night.
I know, but I did find places at the 180 at the not that cheap places, and you still complain. So initially I thought, let's go to Sonoma and Napa, which is just north of San Francisco. We've been to Sonoma before, we really liked it, and it's basically wine country, so we thought, we could shorten the trip from 4 nights to 3 nights, but it is still quite an expensive, and especially Napa. So Napa was in the thousands easily to stay there. But The one thing that really put me off was I was looking into, so you can fly into San Francisco or Sacramento, and then I looked at Sacramento and there were wildfires there. And I also was looking into Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe is a very beautiful place to go, and again there were wildfires there. And then I thought, you know what, we're probably going to book Sonoma or Napa, get there, and there'll be wildfires there. So I thought, and it is wildfire season, so they even close a lot of the national parks because of that. So I thought that's too risky.
So where have we ended up?
We are going to a place called La Jolla.
La Jolla.
Which is spelled La Jolla.
Yeah, I think so. Or La Jolla.
But pronounced La Jolla. It's just north of San Diego, about 30 minutes from the airport. It's a beach destination, very popular with locals, I would say, because I don't think it's a place that
it's
you
not
would ever know.
Vacation destination.
It's not like
see
a tourist,
advertised.
Yeah, it's not like a tourist place. But if you're from the US, or especially if you're from California, you will know of that spot. What I probably didn't realise as well is it's quite an expensive area as well.
Well, at least this is in the south, so the south is not as anywhere near as expensive as the north of California, and you have less risk of these.
Oh yeah, so there shouldn't be any wildfires or anything.
So at least you'll get value for money there.
We know it should happen. We got a bit screwed over with Spirit Airlines. Recommendation: try not to book with Spirit if you can. We only did it because it was the only airline flying to New Orleans at that time. So, but I think going forwards we won't do that again. But we're using the credit that we had from New Orleans to go to San Diego instead. We've got 3 nights there. I'm personally looking really forward to a change of scenery for me. 6 months of being here in Vegas and Summerlin. I just look forward to different.
I look forward to going to California. I always do.
Yeah, we love California as well.
Who knows? We might live there. We might just pack up and move and forget the whole Vegas thing. I don't think we will, but it'll be nice to revisit after being away for a few years.
Yeah, and we didn't go to that part of. So we've been to San Diego before, but we never went to this. But we didn't know it. We didn't know anything about it anyway. We only spent 2 nights when we were there last time. So just be nice to have 3 nights of good food, enjoying the beach, walks, relax, break from work for me. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And then it's my birthday the week after. So who knows what Emma has planned for me.
It'll be cheap.
But yeah, will it be cheap?
Well, there's nothing is cheap, so probably not. No, nothing's cheap here.
Good luck with that.
It's very expensive living and traveling in the US.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. In Europe, you get really cheap flights. You can plan a trip with your loved ones, your friends, for £30.
Yeah.
It's so cheap to catch a flight. Here, you are looking at hundreds. It's very, very hard. And then if you do get a cheap flight, it's a questionable airline. So then you're wondering whether you really want to go on that airline. And the hotels are expensive. I would say they are quite expensive compared to what I'm used to in Europe here. But it's an experience, and I'm looking forward to it.
So, what are we wrapping up with this time? Actually, if you haven't, you need to go and watch our Life Journey series, which I think by the time this video comes out, there'll probably be 5 or 6 episodes. So it gives a broad view of from children to the point that we get here, adulthood, and some of the choices and life decisions and struggles that we've gone through to get here, because it's a question we get asked relatively frequently, so it's an easier way of packaging up the high level stuff it took for us to get to this point in life.
Yeah, let us know what you think of that. There's more to come in that series. We're constantly thinking, there's so much to cover, actually. But yeah, definitely let us know what you think of that. Also, as usual, just let us know what other things you want us to cover. There's a lot of questions on how to get to the USA, and I almost feel that people want this very prescriptive answer and steps. We can only say there isn't a set process. It's just having a plan, and that's all we're trying to do is give you ideas and tools, but not necessarily the exact answer, because I think that's where it becomes really hard. If you haven't already, you know what to do, especially if you watch this channel. I'd love to know, if you haven't subscribed, why haven't you subscribed yet? What is it that you want?
Yeah, what will make you subscribe? Tell us that, and then we'll do that.
But yeah, please do subscribe, comment below, let us know what you think, and don't forget to hit that like button.